There is no activity guide for this, so everything that we do is going to be in code.org. For your warm-up, let's review. So far, we've written programs that put simple shapes on the screen, like squares and circles and triangles. List all of the different pieces of information that you have used to control how these shapes are drawn. I'm going to give you about a minute, and then we will look at our journal prompt. So some of the different pieces of information that we have used to control how the shapes are drawn, if you think about our rectangle block, we have an X and a Y for position on a grid, and then we have the width and the height. But then we also have the fill block to fill it with a color. We have the stroke block if we want it to have an outline. So we have, so far, a few different types of blocks that control how we can draw these shapes. So for your journal prompt, if you wanted to create programs with more detailed images, maybe even characters that you could interact with, what other pieces of information might you need in your code? I'm going to give you about a minute for this one, and then we'll come back. Today we'll learn how to create characters in our animations called sprites. These sprites will help us keep track of all the information that we need in our program. So our question of the day, how can we use sprites to help us keep track of lots of information in our programs? This is another activity without an activity guide. So we are going to go to Code Studio. And in level 1, we're going to explore sprites. So run the code, read the code, and discuss how you think it works with your partner, or if you don't have a partner, with yourself. Change some lines and see what happens, and what do you think each line is doing. Pause the video here so you can explore it, and then come back so we can look at it together. All right, so we are looking at Level 1, Lesson 7. This program uses some new blocks that you haven't seen before. So like the Draw Sprites block, the Set Animation block, the Create block. We haven't seen those before. So read the code and discuss how you think it works. Well, starting out, we're going to create a variable called fruit. And this variable is going to be a sprite created at X and Y. So it's going to create the sprite at 100, 200. So X of 100 and a Y of 200. That's where the fruit variable is going to be created. Then we're going to set the animation of that variable to apple. We have two options, either apple or carrot. Then we're going to create a variable called vegetable, and that will be created at an X position of 300 and a Y position of 200, and we're going to set the animation to carrot. Then we're going to say draw sprites, and that is a built-in method that should actually draw those sprites. So let's run it and see what happens. There we go. So as we watch this next video, I want you to think, what is a sprite? What are properties? And what problem do sprites solve?
If you want to animate a single shape in GameLab, you can quickly end up with a lot of variables to manage. You'll need one to store the shape's X position, one to store the Y position, one for width, one for height, and as you add fills, strokes, and other characteristics, you'll need even more variables. If you want to animate additional shapes, you'll need to create a whole other set of variables. All this can quickly lead to problems with organization and clarity in your code. So what's an elegant and manageable way to keep track of all these variables? The solution is to start animating with sprites. Think of a sprite like a character that lives inside your animations. At first, a sprite will pretty much just be a rectangle. But the beauty of a sprite is what it has going on behind the scenes. When you make a sprite, it comes with properties, which are variables that store the characteristics of a sprite. Properties describe things like where the sprite's located on the screen, what it looks like, and what color it is. To create a new sprite, use the create sprite command. You can assign your sprite a label just like you would a variable. This code is creating a new sprite and giving it the label MySprite, but you can label it anything you'd like. Just like shapes, sprites need to be drawn to the screen. Use the Draw Sprites command to see your sprite appear in the display area.
So our key vocabulary for this lesson, which you will need to add to your journal, are sprite, which is a character on the screen with properties that describe its location, movement, and look. Property, which is a label for a characteristic of a sprite, such as its location and appearance. And then dot notation, which is the way that sprites' properties are used in GameLab by connecting the sprite and property with a dot. So let's go look at levels 3 through 5 on code.org. Follow the instructions on each level. Remember, if you get stuck, try the Help and Tips tab and the code documentation, which you got the link for in a previous video. And then if you have a big problem, use the version history to go back. I can look at level 3 with you. So creating sprites, you use the variable block sprite. It creates a new sprite and assigns it to a variable. The default name is sprite, so you'll want to change it to something more meaningful. Drawing sprites. Sprites only appear on the screen when you draw them there. Calling draw sprites will draw all of your sprites on the screen. So let's do this. This program includes comments. That's what these are. The comments don't do anything other than communicate information to you. This white block right here is nothing but a space. So if we were to click show text, it's just that empty space right there. And whenever we are looking at it in blocks, that empty space just shows up as a plain white block. This program includes comments that let you know where to place code, but otherwise it's blank. Your program should look like the image on the right, so it gives us an example of what we're trying to make happen. Add variable sprite equals create sprite 200 200. I'm going to put it under the creating sprites part, okay? You can ignore the yellow triangle warning for now. This triangle, whenever you hover over these icons, it will tell you why they are there. And right now it says sprite is defined, but it's not called in the program yet. So whenever we create a variable, we're doing that so that we can use the information that's stored in that variable at some point. And so why have a variable if we're not going to be using it in a program? But we're not done creating the program, so it's okay that that's there. And if your program has a red square, then we have a bigger issue that needs to be addressed probably immediately. So add draw sprites under the comment drawing. Right there. Then run the code to draw your first sprite. Sprites are drawn from their center, which means that the center of the square, not the top left corner, is at 200 200. So if we show the grid, we'll see that right here. And that's the difference between drawing a shape versus drawing a sprite. When we drew our shapes, it was the top left corner. But when we draw the sprite, it is the middle of the sprite. So keep that in mind. Once you have this over here, then you are ready to move on. And I want you to pause the video here so that you can continue working through level 5 and then come back when you are done. So for level 6, we have a video and it talks about the animation tab. What are the steps to adding an image to a sprite? What are the different ways to get an image? Let's watch this video together.
Hi, I'm Aston Motes, and I was the first software engineer hired at Dropbox. I also work with an organization called DevColor. DevColor is a nonprofit that advances the careers of Black software engineers. Sprites make it much easier to organize your code, but visually, they're still just rectangles. To make our creations come to life, we'll want to add images to our sprites. We'll start with a simple program you've seen before that creates a single rectangular sprite. Before we can turn this rectangle into something more fun, we need to tell GameLab about the image we want to use. All images and drawings you add to your project are created and managed in the Animation tab. To switch back and forth between your code and the animations, use a toggle in the upper left corner. To add a new animation, click the plus sign. This will open a library of images that are already built into GameLab. From the library, you can browse the categories to find what you're looking for. Once you've selected an image, it'll be added to your project and shown on the left. If you like, you can also change the name of your image. So, here we've added an image in the Animation tab, and we have code that creates a basic sprite. Now we'll need to put those two together and tell the computer that we want this particular sprite. We'll use the set animation block to do this. First, we'll use the name of our sprite and the name of the image we selected in the Animation tab. Now when we run our program, the sprite will be drawn with the image we selected. You're not limited to the images that come built into GameLab. You can also choose to upload an image from your computer or draw something yourself. In fact, you can edit any image in the Animation tab using the pixel editor. Using the different commands in the pixel editor, you can easily draw, erase, or modify images. To adjust the dimensions of an image, just make changes in the menu on the right side. It's also just one click to flip your image to face the opposite direction. If you like an image you've made but want to make some changes, just make a copy. There are lots of helpful little tools in the pixel editor. Play around with them on your own and see what they do. Adding images or your own drawings to sprites lets you unleash your creativity and make your programs really your own. Let's get to it.
So the best thing about the animation tab is that you can add the animation to the sprite using the set animation block. The use of the word animation for a single image may be a little bit confusing, but in GameLab, still images are considered animations with only one frame. You can use an animation already in the animation tab library. You can upload one from your computer or from your iPad, and you can create your own using the provided drawing tools. Now, if you have a drawing app on your iPad, you can create one in there and then upload it. And that might allow you a little bit more detail. And you can use the drawing tools to modify the images that you've chosen from the library or that you have uploaded. So let's look at level 7, which is debugging images. Run the code to see what happens and fix the 2 problems in the code. So immediately we have a variable dessert being defined, but it's not called in the program. So that's not that big of a deal. The program draws 3 sprites to the screen, but it's not working yet. The wrong sprite is in front, and one sprite's animation isn't showing up. Run the code to see what happens. Let's go ahead and show our grid, and then run the code. So we see our ice cream. We see a square instead of a soda can. So let's go to the animation and see what might be the problem. Soda is spelled this way, ice cream is spelled this way, text get ready is spelled this way. We want the text to be on the front. And if you remember from one of our first lessons, the order that we put things is very important. So if we want the message to be on top of the other 2, just like we're painting, we have to paint this soda can first, we have to paint the ice cream can, we have to paint the ice cream cone next, and then we have to paint the message last. So that message needs to go last. Now let's look at the code. So we have this variable drink, create sprite, and that's where it's going to create it. And then we said drink.setAnimationSoda. soda. We have a dessert, variable dessert equals create sprite, but then we said drink.setAnimationIce cream. So why is this one and this one the same? Why did the ice cream one work, but not the soda one? We want the soda on the left, but the one that's on the left is the ice cream. So what should we do? We want drink, we want dessert. So let's change the one that comes after that has to do with the ice cream. Let's change that to dessert. Let's see what happens. Okay? Does that make sense? When we create this variable, whatever we do here, we're doing it to that variable. So we want to make sure that each variable is represented. So if this did say drink still, and we see that this triangle pops up saying we haven't used dessert anywhere, then that should let us know that we should go ahead and double check and make sure that dessert is being used. All right, if that does not make sense, please let me know so that we can talk about it a little bit more. And go to level 8, match. This is a match level. match the code to the output. Pause the video here so you can do that and then come back. Level 9 is a practice level, so choose 3 to 4 of these activities to complete so that you can get a decent amount of practice in. Follow the instructions for each one and then check out the Help and Tips tab if you need help. And pause the video here so you can do that and then come back. Level 10 is the assessment level. I want you to follow the instructions in Code Studio. Read the rubric so that you know what you're being scored on. The best score will get you will get the best score if you have more than 2 sprites that have been created with different animations that are drawn to the canvas at different locations. Each sprite has a unique and meaningful label. So if you need a little bit of help with this, you can look back at the practice levels that you've done, okay? Don't recreate anything from the practice levels. Make it your own, but you can use the practice levels as examples to help guide you. Pause the video here so you can complete the assessment level and then come back. For your challenge level, you can do any or all of the challenge levels. I want you to follow the instructions on Code Studio. As always, check out the Help and Tips tab if you need help. And then whichever one you choose, after you're done with it, that's going to be the one you screenshot to upload to Schoology, and then I'll go back in and verify. And if you have created anything in this lesson that you're super proud of, don't forget to share a screenshot of that in our discussion board so that we can all see it. Pause the video here so you can complete level 11 and then come back so we can do our final journal. So far, we've been able to change a sprite's location and image. What else might you want to change about your sprites? Pause the video so you can answer that in your journal, and I think you're also going to have to type the prompt, so pause it so you can do that. Don't forget to add your vocabulary for this lesson into your journal. And don't forget to answer the question of the day. How can we use sprites to help us keep track of lots of information in our programs?